I, 49F, and my ex-husband, 50M, let's call him Kevin, got divorced, and the straw that broke the camel's back was when I came home with a present for him for our anniversary and he accused me of getting it from whoever I was sleeping with and threw it away. He didn't even open the present, which was a Rolex watch he had looked at multiple times and expressed he liked. I talked to a divorce attorney after this and we filed within a month and he moved out. I told my attorney about this and he wanted to know where he moved out as Kevin wouldn't list his new address. It was revealed he moved in with his new girlfriend, 50F, let's call her Jenny. I actually knew Jenny as our oldest kids have been in the same class since pre-K. I also knew Jenny and her husband, 52M, let's call him Terry, just got divorced right before us too. It takes a little over a year to finalize the divorce since Kevin couldn't agree to any terms. A few weeks after the divorce, Kevin and Jenny went public with their relationship on a luxury beach trip. Terry sends me a friend request that I quickly accepted. I'll admit, at this moment I was being shallow because he's undeniably attractive. He's 6 feet 3 inches, tan from working outside on his farm, and fit, and he messaged me right after. Just asking if I had seen the post and blah blah blah. The conversation quickly turns into making plans to get dinner and drinks one night. It was Kevin's first weekend with the kids, so Terry and I went out. It sounds sappy, but in that moment, I knew this could be something. It felt natural talking to him and like I didn't have to walk on eggshells or tiptoe around things. He was the first person to actually look at me while I'm talking and we agreed on almost everything. I invited him over after we left and we had a few more drinks and watched a sappy love movie and had so much fun making fun of how unrealistic it was. We somehow finished a bottle and a half of wine, so I invited him to stay the night. He offered to sleep on the couch, but I told him he could sleep in the bed since I still wasn't sleeping well because I wasn't used to sleeping alone. The next morning, I made us breakfast and we agreed that we should do this another time and that it was great. As we were eating, Kevin texted me that he was down the road to drop the kids off. Terry rushed to her, dressed, and left. It felt terrible making him leave like that, and of course, the first thing Kevin asked was about if he saw Terry's truck coming down our road. I told him nope and he dropped the kids off and left. That was 4 years ago, and shortly after that, Terry admitted to me that he wanted a relationship and I said yes. We kept it private all this time because it's really no one's business to know. As long as we were happy together. We just celebrated our 4th anniversary and beginning in November, Terry started to hint that he wanted to propose and wanted me to move to his farm in another town since he lived an hour and a half away. Our anniversary was December 1st and he planned a surprise dinner with all our friends to propose to me. I couldn't believe that he really did all this for me. All our friends were incredibly supportive and agreed that we seemed happy together and deserved to be happy with each other. The next day, I made a post that we were engaged. This was the first post about Terry and I on each other's page. Right after the post, we started to get calls, texts, FB messages from Jenny's family, Kevin's family, and Jenny sent a long message to Terry saying she couldn't believe we would do this and didn't check with them first and how insensitive it was to get engaged when we knew her and Kevin were on a break because of the fighting. He ignored all her messages until we both got messages from my family saying we were shitty people for getting engaged in spite of Jenny and Kevin and how they no longer wanted to see my kids and wouldn't be attending the wedding. Terry started to help me sell my house since he also works for a real estate company, and we packed all my stuff up and sold all the furniture and moved me into Terry's house. I left my job and was actually able to get a job at his company as a secretary. He has 2 sons who treat me very well. They don't call me their mom, I don't expect them to either, but they do tell people I'm their stepmom, and they surprised me with a basketball mom shirt with their names and numbers for Christmas. I couldn't stop crying after seeing it because it was so meaningful to me to see how they considered me their stepmom. Kevin had the kids for Christmas and we were supposed to begin the normal split custody in January. Since the first of the year, the kids have said they don't want to see me, and Kevin said he's talking with an attorney to change our custody schedule and that he wants full custody. I am finally happy with someone that loves me, planning a very small wedding with only friends and family that was supportive of our relationship, and have 2 new stepsons that love me, but I feel so empty without my kids. I took them to meet Terry and he had been to dinner with us a couple times and he treated them like his own and he never got on to them or was mean to them. I feel so conflicted about what to do. My kids won't even talk to me over the phone and refuse to see me. So, am I the asshole for getting engaged to Terry? Edit. My kids have always known Terry and were introduced to him after a year and a half of us dating. They had no problem with us being together and knew about the engagement as Terry took them to pick out the ring. It's not like he's a total stranger to them as they've been around him multiple times and been to his house. I hope this can clear up some confusion and I plan to elaborate more when I have an update. Mini update. I was able to talk to my usual therapist about a session next week to help the kids talk and maybe help them understand the truth. It's next Friday when I would usually pick them up, so hopefully it goes well. Update. I'm not sure how much of an update this is, but here we go. To start, I'm sure him and Jenny had an affair when we were still married and I really don't care to know. I don't let them waste any of my energy worrying about them and what they do or did. I probably could have worded the end of my post better. Terry isn't a stranger I just pulled off the street and got engaged to. My kids have always known Terry as his kids are the same age and played the same sports. I told them I was dating someone after a year and a half and introduced them to him shortly after. They've been to dinner with Terry and me and been with me when Terry came over and been to Terry's house where he lives. He's a very busy and hard-working man, so we didn't get to spend very much time together where I live or with my kids, so I would usually spend time at his house, but I never skipped time with my kids to see him. Terry is a farmer, land real estate agent, owns his own business, and a volunteer firefighter, so that is why I decided to move there instead of the other way around. He has roots in his area while I was free to move. I did tell my kids prior to the move and engagement that I would like to one day move there. They did tell me that they really wouldn't be interested in moving there as they like the school they attend and didn't want to switch. I was fine with that and told them if I did, I would still like them to stay even if it's for a weekend or when they're on break. Terry also took all 3 of my boys and his 2 to pick out my ring, so it wasn't a shock to any of them. Terry asked all 3 of my kids individually if they were fine with it before he even proposed. I was also asked about if they could come to his house, and yes, they could. Terry has a very nice ranch house he built with 5 full bedrooms and 3 empty finished rooms in the basement that could be bedrooms. They've already stayed there too before the engagement and had no problems. Terry also has a room that he calls his office that he offered to clear out to make room for an upstairs bedroom so one kid didn't have to sleep downstairs if all 5 were staying at his house, so they could have their own rooms and privacy. I didn't want to act like I was hiding my relationship with Terry, but we wanted to take things slow and not rush. Hence why we didn't post to social media or tell our exes. Obviously, friends knew. You can only tell people you're friends for so long before they catch on, but we only told very, very close friends who won't gossip and tell everyone. And lastly, the last question was about my job. Yes, I went from a director of a department to a secretary. A secretary making just under what I made as a director. You all would be very surprised what small town local business secretaries make. I'm a secretary/accountant for the land real estate company as well as Terry's business he owns and his farm. I go to work at 2:30 a.m. with him and don't leave until he does around 9 p.m. and still have farm chores after. So, for everyone degrading my career, I work my ass off. Now on to the update. After that post and the advice, I called my lawyer who agreed that he can't keep the kids from me and that he was definitely doing something to make them flip like that. He did say we could go to court, but I told him I wanted to try and resolve it without court first. I'm not ashamed of it and I'll admit it, I see a therapist for my own health. I talked to her about getting a session with just my kids and she agreed. I called Kevin after that to say I want to have a talk with only the boys and he could drop them off, but he could not attend. The therapist was able to finally get them to open up. You Reddit detectives were correct, he turned the story to that Terry and I had an affair for years before we got divorced and even tried to tell the youngest that Terry could be his dad because I was cheating then. Which isn't true as I never cheated on Kevin in our entire relationship. I was able to tell the kids the full truth and I felt like a 50-pound weight was lifted off my chest. After, I had never been happier to hug all 3 of them. I made sure to express how much we miss them and are happy to have them home. And completely unexpected was all 3 gave Terry a hug next. Terry isn't one to cry about much or cry very easily, but the second they hugged him, I saw his eyes water up and I knew I was making the right decision and picked someone who loves these boys as much as I do. They spent the weekend with us and I was able to tell the older 2 the full story about Kevin and Jenny, how the marriage fell apart, and once again invited them to live with us. They both said that they actually wanted to, but since Kevin had fed them lies, they didn't want to be around us. They get out of school in May and are planning to move with us for the summer. This will hopefully be a good opportunity for them to bond with Terry's kids and their friends. I will not be pushing them to move here as it's their own choice, but deep down, I really do hope they do. I think going to a smaller school and living in a smaller town will be better for them than living in a city. I told my youngest a more watered down version of events. I did make sure to tell him that Kevin is his real dad and what he told him about Terry was not true. He seemed to understand it. So, for the moment, Kevin is fine with the boys moving here for the summer. All 3 asked him instead of me and I think that helped a lot. Showing him it was their decision instead of mine. To say I'm excited is an understatement. I'm over the moon with how much this is working out. I've talked with my lawyer and he said the older 2 are able to decide where they go, while Kevin and I would have to come to agreement for our youngest. I don't want full custody as I think kids need their father in their lives, but my lawyer is urging me to fight for full custody. With travel sports starting up, Kevin and I were able to agree on a temporary agreement of me getting the kids on weekends that they have a game. I will pick them up on Fridays, go to the game on Saturday, and bring them home Sunday. We've been talking with lawyers about a permanent agreement. They were able to agree with the older two having a decision as long as they didn't miss anything required such as school. Some things Kevin has told the kids is that Terry is still dependent on drugs. To make a long story short, about 2 years ago, Terry had been having neck problems and saw a chiropractor for the first time in his life. That chiropractor broke his neck in 4 places, C4 C7, resulting in him needing 2 surgeries and becoming addicted to painkillers. He was on them for a year and it took him another 6 months to get off, but he's been clean since of any prescription painkiller. Said that Terry and I wanted to take them away and never let them see their other family. Tried to accuse me of being addicted to drugs. I get even more sick and nauseous taking painkillers, so I refuse to take any. Even after a mastectomy and reconstruction surgery, and I also found out Jenny was calling them my boys and wanting them to take her last name, that is still Terry's because she refused to change it after the divorce. So, there's still lots we don't know and hopefully will one day.